What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mastery Podcast. We are at episode 128, and I have a very special guest for you all, but he's a very, very good friend of mine, long-term great friend, Ben Pakulski. Bud, welcome onto
You
the Mastery
sound so
Podcast.
proper in that intro. It makes me feel like I need to articulate myself correctly.
We're in England, my friend. It's English.
Yes.
But I'm. Do you know what? I'm so buzzed that we're on the speaking today, because the last time we did a podcast together was actually 2014, 2015, and a hell of a lot's changed.
Too long, man.
It's been a long time, and I just think that you've been on a huge journey. I've been on a journey, and I learned a lot from our relationship over the years, and I
Likewise.
have been fortunate enough to not only be friends, for us to be friends, but I was at a point in my career when we first met where, I was learning a lot about bettering myself, learning a lot about developing my physique, and I was privileged enough to spend a lot of time with you and witness firsthand your pursuit of this. What I want to talk about in this episode is the pursuit of personal excellence. And I've witnessed this. You're very well known for it. Those of you who don't know you, I'd love you to just, and I'm sure everybody will know you, but there's going to be new personal trainers to the industry who may not. Yeah. And I'd love you to just give us an overview of you. And then we'll get into kind of, your background in training and where you're at now in your life, just to give everybody an overview. And I'd love to kind of let everybody know that first.
Thanks, Mark. And you're someone who had a special kind of glimpse into my life. And I don't often let a lot of people into my life because, during my career, I was so myopically focused on this goal that sometimes I wasn't always kind to people, as you saw, as you and I can discuss, because I was so focused. And at the time, that was my only the only way that I knew to approach this, excellence, quote unquote. My desire for excellence at that point in my life was I want my body to resemble excellence. And the only way I knew how to do it at the time was to, ultimately go in a little bubble and focus within my mind. And if anything pulled away from my focus, I didn't have the skills to be able to cope and compensate and discuss it. So oftentimes it was just like, okay, shut that world out and go. And, I reached some relatively, quote unquote, successful things in that sport. I surpassed what most people thought I would ever do. And one thing that I often speak of is this ascension of the proverbial mountain, right? And every man and women as well have this desire to pursue things outside of themselves, whether it be money, whether it be significance, whether it be muscle in my case, and maybe even your case. And you get to the top of that mountain or as close as you thought you were going to get to the top, and you surpass it, and you realize it's not going to give you fulfillment. It's not going to make you feel complete inside. It's not everything you thought it was. As much as it's great to have accomplished it, it's not about the end result. It's the person you become in the process. And I wish someone had told me that early on, to make me realize that, though every one of those struggles, every one of those hard days was there as an opportunity to allow me to become better. So if I had learned to see my struggles as opportunities and embrace them rather than push them away, I would have ascended this proverbial mountain much faster. I would have maybe had a more enjoyable time during my bodybuilding career. But anyways, fast forward to the future. That's kind of what my bodybuilding career looked like. 2016, I decided to walk away because there was nothing else for me to achieve there. Like, short of becoming Mr. Olympia, I accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. And I just didn't have the same passion, enthusiasm for it. So now that, let's call it discipline, let's call it obsessiveness, is now being redirected into the internal journey, right? So it's this internal journey around, as you would say, personal excellence. And that's really what it is now. It's like, how can I learn to master me? How can I learn to master my actions, my thoughts, my discipline, my finances, my relationships, my body, and all those things, right? And so during bodybuilding, I was focused on one thing, and now it's focusing on the big picture, the wheel, right? So, using your things, it's family, it's finances, it's fitness, it's all those things that have to matter now, and excellence in every one of those areas is the goal.
And we go back, I mean, I was very, very fortunate to train with you leading up to, your one of your Arnolds. But, you don't go from, kind of 10th, 11th in one of the Arnolds all the way climbing up to your second place position without this incredible, and Olympia, to get to the pinnacle of bodybuilding without this word excellence. There's a big phase in your life that you've dedicated yourself to becoming a master of your craft at that particular field. Now, we've got a lot of people in the fitness industry, a lot of trainers that are dedicating themselves to their body at this point in their life, or they're dedicating themselves to their craft. That period of time where you have been focused on pursuing excellence in that area, go back to your bodybuilding days. Like, what do you take from that pursuit at that time?
It's still fresh in my mind, man. It's like it was yesterday. Like every night I close my eyes, I go back there, and sometimes I relive it because it was so such a big part of my life. It was literally everything, and that, Mark. I was obsessed with how can I be the greatest version of myself, and I think there's this general air of discontent with who I was. Like I knew, I guess I set this standard for myself. In 1998, when I was 17 years old, I said, until I look like Flex Wheeler, I'm nothing. And that kind of statement resonates in the back of my mind unconsciously as well. Like, until I reach, what I would define as excellence or perfection, I'm just not there yet. So it's this constant, like, more. And people say, that's maybe it's some type of reverse anorexia or some type of mental illness. I just don't think it was. I think it was just me having such a high standard and wanting to accept nothing less. So every time I went in the gym, I put so much pressure on myself to be great today, right? I need to demand excellence of myself today, and within my workouts, within my meals, within my cardios, within everything I did that led up to this event. And it was just, this myopic focus, man. It was, and people ask if I think I could have done it in a different way. And I don't know that I could have, man. I don't know that I had the ability. I don't know if I'll ever have the ability to be that focused on something and be a different person. Because even now, you'll understand, if I'm so focused on one thing, and let's say I'm meditating on this one thing right here, right now, and someone comes up from over here and pokes me in the shoulder, that pulls my attention away. And I always said, if you're not helping me, you're hindering me, right? So if you're not helping me accomplish this goal, it's getting in my way, so I don't have time. So I don't know. Again, maybe at some point in my life I'll have an answer to this question, but I don't know that there's an athlete out there at the pinnacle of their sport who would have the ability to do it any other way than being absolutely neurotically obsessed with every little detail. And the approach that I took to bodybuilding is the same approach that I'm now applying to life. And it's really simple. And I think everyone could benefit from this. It's objectively being your own worst critic. So it's not necessarily always focusing on the negative. It's acknowledging what you're really, really good at and being grateful for all those things that you've done very, very well, but also being grateful for the things that you acknowledge that you're really poor at, and looking at those and going, okay, rather than seeing these as a bad thing, which is what I did during my career, I now see them as an opportunity for growth, and I go at them as voraciously as I did anything in my life. So it's just always objectively looking at, you're only as strong as your weakest link. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So if I can't articulate myself well, let's go practice that, right? So I started a podcast. If I can't, communicate well in a relationship, let's practice that. If I can't optimize my finances or making business, we just focus on it, and we take all of our time and our energy, and we focus on one or two things.
Now, this level of excellence that you had, what I'd like to do is look at the habits that you had throughout your bodybuilding of excellence, and how let's go right back to bodybuilding. If you said you had this subconscious pattern imprinted in you, and here's the funny thing, I said to myself that I will not settle into a relationship till I built a business and a body. And I said that to myself at the age of 26. And then suddenly every relationship that I came across was not right. And I just kept focused on my training and building my business. And you had this underlying subconscious pattern that you said, look, until I built the Flex Wheeler body, or until I've actually got to a certain level, that pattern at some point changed. something changed within you. So that whole pursuit of your bodybuilding and living at that excellent state, that has served, the point I want to get to is that served you.
Sure it did. Yeah.
So what part of your journey in that pursuit of excellence can, say, a coach listening to this, looking at the discipline that they're putting in their life right now and maybe shutting out other people, like social life, like personal trainers have got to work long hours, right? Personal trainers have got to, we'll get into this, like their own pursuit of their own physique. But that dedication that you put in there, would you go back and change anything?
Of course not, brother. It's goals, man. It's having, I think that the thing that people do wrong is their level of self-confidence is low. So they tend to set goals that are kind of just achievable, sort of attainable. But if you asked me when I was 17 years old if I was going to compete in the Olympia, the answer was, of course. It wasn't like, oh, maybe. It's like, of course I'm going to compete in the Olympia. And everyone around me goes, you're out of your mind, kid. You don't have the genetics. You don't have the ability to build muscle. You're this 160-pound weakling. But there was never a second of doubt in my mind where there was any other option. And I think that's where maybe people fall short, is they set goals that are too small. So it doesn't get them excited, man. Like, I think if I would have set any other goal than being Mr. Olympia or going to the Mr. Olympia contest, I wouldn't have followed through, right? I didn't want to be the biggest guy in my gym. I didn't want to be the biggest guy in my country. I didn't even want to be the biggest guy in North America. Like, I want to be the biggest and best guy in the world. So that was always my, like, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? Am I doing everything possible to be that guy? And unfortunately, maybe my downfall was there was things that I didn't know that I needed to do, right? You don't know what you don't know. And, I think as I evolved in my career, I've started to learn those things toward the end, but it would have been really nice to have a mentor. You and I talk a lot about mentorship and coaching. It would have been so nice to have a mentor that said, hey man, this is your blind spot. This is the thing you're not paying attention to. And that's what you should go after. So for me, I can tell you what it was now looking back at it. Well, 3 things I would say that would be the most important that maybe held me back from building muscle maximally. It was breathing. So I didn't have a deliberate breathing practice. I didn't pay attention to my heart rate variability and didn't pose enough. As a bodybuilder, those are my 3 things. Like, if there's young aspiring bodybuilders out there, those 3 things are massive. And you get that now, wherever you are, but like those 3 things are massive in your ability to be a successful bodybuilder. Early in my career, I posed a lot, but I never paid attention to breathing and HRV. And I won't get into why breathing and HRV matter, but for someone who wants to be a successful athlete, those 2 things are, at the top of my list, certainly at the top of my list, in top 5 for sure, of things people should be doing to build the greatest physique.
And in terms of this excellent standard, I mean, people want to pursue this level of excellence. And you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that a lot of people are below that. What is it that people need to do that is different to day-to-day people if they want to go in pursuit of this standard of excellence? Is it
Sure.
it raising the bar higher?
Of course, yeah. It's I always say I have a world-class standard. And, if you looked at me and compared me against anybody else, everyone go, oh man, you're huge, you look great. And I literally wouldn't even hear that information coming into me, or in one ear out the other. What I heard was, hey man, that's a little bit weak, or what I saw to myself. Yes, I know I look great, but this, and this. And because my standard was always as high as it could possibly be, I was always focused on, great, I've accomplished some really good things, and I made sure to celebrate my victories. I always was very outward with the celebration of my victories, but I also then immediately went right back to work and go, well, yes, I love what I've done so far, but let's get back to work on the next thing. So the day after the competition, you're back in the gym, you're doing your cardios, you're doing your workouts. So it's having an obsessive focus on, well, what's the next thing I need to do? And it's the same thing in business, man. You get it. It's like, yes, I can celebrate obstacle, or I can celebrate victories, but then I'm going to look at, okay, where's the next barrier? Where's the next obstacle? And you have to be that way. And some people just don't measure the amount of time that they're celebrating and the amount of time that they're coasting and the amount of time that they're actually pursuing the goal, right? Some people spend too much time coasting, too much time celebrating, not enough time pursuing the goal. And it's just this balance between those things.
Now, I witnessed you, and I mean, we will touch on this, it's me and you. Like when you were doing your training sessions, like, no one mattered in that gym apart from you. And when you were away from those training sessions, it was all on you. Do you believe that people need to, in terms of their own pursuit of developing their business, you talked about there needs to be a bit of a blend with the things that are most important to you. But in order for somebody to pursue excellence, do you truly think that people can juggle Or do you still think that you have to have this razor focused attitude on that thing that you want to pursue as your excellence?
Sure. I had a good conversation with somebody yesterday about this. It's just my belief that so many people are looking to fill holes in themselves with something outside of themselves, right? Whether it be with money, with relationships, with whatever business. Until you fill all those holes yourself, you can't optimize and balance all those other things. So I think most people should focus on look at yourself objectively, spend time alone, spend time in silence. And the simplest way that I started to understand meditation was meditation is the time that exists in the gap between thoughts, between actions, right? So it's not about doing, it's about being. That actual, literally, if I'm thinking one thought and thinking another thought, how can I prolong the time between those two thoughts? And then be with the essence of me that exists between those two thoughts. And the more time I can be in that gap, the more time I can start to acknowledge who I am at my core, what my thoughts are, what my feelings are, what my emotions are like, and I can learn to explore what I need to get better at. And so for me, I think most human beings don't want to spend time alone. They don't want to work on themselves. And the reality is, and you get this, Mark, the day that you're finally content being alone because you love yourself so much, you've done so much work on yourself, that equal and opposite person will be there, and they'll literally just make themselves appear. And, our physical bodies and our external world is a reflection of our consciousness, and it's a reflection of our internal reality. And if we can just work on improving our consciousness, becoming more conscious, becoming more aware, optimizing our internal reality, this, equal and opposite person will appear that then makes you cumulatively better. That equal and opposite business will appear. Like the thing that you truly want to do will appear. Like yourself, you're living your pure essence right now, Mark. You're coaching, you're mentoring, you're inspiring, because that's who you are at your core. And everyone can see that, man. And you have so much love and passion for what you've never worked a day in your life. And that's what everyone needs to find or should strive to find. But we spend so much time masking it with other nonsense, like, whether it be radio in the car, like anything that mutes out our mind, television, radio, Instagram, all those things are just muting your ability to think and be by yourself. And we're addicted to that stuff because it prevents us from having to think. And so if you get it, man, time alone is your most important asset in striving for personal excellence, because you need to see where the gaps are. You need to see where the emotional inefficiencies are and pursue those things. And most people just don't spend enough time doing it. And when you do it, you journal it, you write it down, because it allows you to be reflective.
So why you and I completely, fully appreciate the time alone. I don't meditate. I haven't meditated. It's always something that I've been intrigued to do.
But you're an athlete. That's natural. Meditation is built into athletics.
Really?
Yeah.
And
yeah, man. Because when you're playing rugby, you get into a state, even training, you get into a state where there's no mind. You're not thinking. You're just in that zone. You're flowing. That's meditative. Right. So if I'm thinking consciously, that's beta, right? I'm in a beta state in my brain. And as soon as you get into that flow state where things are just happening and time kind of stands still and things slow down, that's a meditative state. Most athletes inherently get into these states without even knowing it.
And how like during the training session, I can 100% relate to just not thinking about, and if someone says, what are you thinking about? Nothing.
Did you hear the music? No. Did you hear me talking? No.
And to be honest with you, I've actually got to a point now where I will say it on the podcast, I call these fuck off phones.
Yeah.
And they're basically in, but no music on. And very rarely nowadays do I need it. Right. Because I just don't want to talk to anybody, but they're just there. But it's very interesting that you say that. But why do you think, therefore, that a lot of people don't like that alone time? What is it that they are
they're afraid
avoiding?
Of what they'll hear. They're afraid of what they're hear, right? So most people are brought up craving acceptance, being rejected, saying they're not good enough. So there's so many levels of fear and inadequacy built into our unconscious. So when people start to spend time alone with themselves, they start to get low-level anxiety, low-level fear that come up about their inadequacies, right? Or what they perceive to be their inadequacies. And rather than going after them, going, yes, I know I suck at this, I got to get better, they mute it. And if you've ever read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, yes, he talks about sweeping the dragon under the rug, right? It's just like the baby dragon gets swept under the rug because it's not that big of a deal, but eventually you drop the crumbs, the dragon keeps getting fed, it grows bigger and bigger and bigger. That's exactly it, man. We have these little things that arise, and if you address them immediately because you have the confidence to do so, they never get the chance to get bigger, and you continue to build your confidence and build your self-acceptance. And if you don't, well, then that thing starts to build anxiety and fear and inadequacy deeper and deeper into the core of who you are. And you get these feelings. And now the only way that you can make them go away is with food or with alcohol or with sex or with social media, because that low level anxiety that exists, you're just looking for something outside of yourself to change the way you feel. Like I'm a little bit tired, I'm a little bit anxious. Now I need alcohol, now I need drugs, now I need food, whatever it is, right? I need people to mute those feelings. And that's a huge problem. And it's a huge problem, and why people will never change until they acknowledge that.
So the big take home from that part of the conversation was to enjoy quiet time, but also listen. I mean, there's a lot of messages in quiet time, and if we choose to listen, there's a lot that's coming to us. That
right. Why is the anxiety there? Right.
Yeah.
Like if I have anxiety, that's not supposed to be there. That's not a genetic trait. That's not a default. I don't have anxiety. It's not something I possess. It's something I get. Right. So I got anxiety from this. Okay, great. Well, let's make that thing go away. Work voraciously on that one thing until it goes away. If there's something you're insecure about, good. Say thank you. Fix it. Right. If you're fat, it makes you insecure. Thank you. Fix it. And don't be shy about it. Be bold about it. Right. If you're not making enough money and you're shy about it or you're insecure about it, good. Use that as fuel. And that's just the only perspective. The word good is one that comes up a lot in your and I conversations we have. It's like, well, this thing happened today. Good. Like, great. Because now that's a catalyst to say, hey, man, both of us need to work on that, right? Or whatever it happens to be. Always paying attention to the inadequacies or the shortcomings that you feel are not serving you, and going after it with just voracious tenacity.
Now, something that you've helped me a lot with, and I've learned a lot from you in terms of training, and I will say this to anybody who's listening to the podcast who doesn't know Ben very well. I've never ever been trained by anybody, one who trains like you do with the strength and endurance, but also what you expect of other people around you, which I've had the privilege and pain of experiencing.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
But that I've been given a gift by you, that I have a coaching eye and I have an expectation of others. But I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there, and I'll never forget training in the Tampa Powerhouse North Gym when you were prepping, and I was literally clasping for air out the window, trying to get a breath. But it was like, let's go. But this taught me like about effort, about there's a level of expectation that you had from not just yourself, but also those that's in your environment. If people, coaches, want to get better, and we are living in a world where there's a lot of information coming from all sources, on a lot of online stuff, a lot of education, a lot of trainers are accrediting themselves with being a great coach. The aspect of being in a gym and expecting of yourself at a higher level than you expect of your clients. What are your
Never
thoughts?
ask someone to do something you're not willing to do yourself. I mean, Mark, you got my respect before I even met you, because I was looking at what you're doing from afar. One, you're extremely articulate. Two, you're running a great business. Three, you got yourself in incredible shape. And I was like, okay, this guy's got, he's got the desire, the tenacity to follow through on all those things he puts out there. And most people don't earn my respect, certainly not from a distance, because they're not following through on their word. How are you going to get me sub 5% body fat if you've never done it yourself? It doesn't make any sense. You're just living a dichotomy. So that 90% of coaches out there are trying to ask people to do something they've never done themselves. So when you and I were training, the reason I had your respect is because you knew that everything I asked you to do, I was going to do that and more. So when I said, Mark, it's your turn to go, you went, and you was like, fuck, I got to go. Like, I got to keep up. And because I wasn't asking you to do twice as many sets as me, or any more reps than me, or any more weight than me. I was asking you to do exactly the same thing that I was doing, or very close to it, as close as we could. And that's how training and how life needs to work, right? If I'm the leader of a business, I'm the CEO of a business, and I'm not able to do all those things everyone else is doing, I'm not capable of doing or willing to do it, why the fuck are they going to do it for me? Like, forget it, right? So you have to show your team, you have to show your clients, you have to show anyone who follows you that I'm going to do this and more. I'm going to do twice as much as you. And then hopefully you have, they have the tenacity to step up and follow, right? And that's leading, right? Rather than talking.
Well, this gets to that leadership question, right? Because at the end of the day, if you've got 20 clients, well, if you've got 50 clients online, the person that is at the front is the leader of the tribe. And at the end of the day, you've always led your tribe, and your tribe is the MI40 Nation, right? I mean, everybody that follows you is involved with you, that comes on your courses. There is a leader at the helm, and that leader is, you can't do what I do, right?
Yeah. Hey, man, I still hold that statement as like, I get people that come up to me now. I had one person recently go, what can you do that I can't? And I just smiled. I give them my typical, very, very calm smile. And I go, man, you don't know what I used to do. Like I may not be capable of it right now, but if you ever want to bring that beast back one day, like it doesn't go away. And that's why I respect anybody who's successful at anything, man. And no matter if it was 20 years ago or 50 years ago or 1 year ago, that person has that inside, that fire that burns. It doesn't go away, man. And Branch Warren and I had kind of a famous battle, in IFBB, and I had nothing but respect for that guy, man. Like, cause I know to get the body that he has, you're an animal, man. Like there's a switch you have in your brain. So as much as it was competitive, there's a respect. And that goes for anybody who accomplishes anything that's challenging in life, whether it be special forces or business or bodybuilding or any athlete who excels. We all have this common trait this trait in common, that we all have a switch in our mind that we can go to those places that nobody else can.
And what do you think coaches who are, at any stage in their career, right? I mean, I use this phrase a lot, level up. And I told you this when we spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago. Level up is not about an egotistical, you've reached a pinnacle. It's just about stepping forward. It's about stepping up. It's about going the extra notch. And I remember, I'll be honest with you. And for this podcast, I wanted to meet you. And I remember saying to myself, like, how do you get in front of this guy? How do you get to know this guy? And it honestly, I know I was doing my shows. I know I was doing my shoots. And I was like, I got to get great results. And if you want to step in front of somebody or level up a little bit, you've got to get within the radar of that person, as you said a few minutes ago. Now, coaches are aspiring, especially in this world of social media, and I say attention in a good way. People want to build a brand, and they want to get recognized for what they do. And they're struggling to get recognized for what they do. In the pursuit of excellence, what would be your kind of blueprint to level up your standards, to take you as an individual up to a level that would either get you noticed or move your business and brand further forward?
Sure. I've actually talked about this recently. So my podcast, Muscle Intelligence, we do a Q&A every week, and Ashley asked me something similar. And I said, she says, Ben, why are you more active on social media? I said, because I don't want to be. And I'm very blessed in that I have this community now that actually advocates me so I don't have to. Yeah. And that has always been my objective from the beginning, is I want to do rather than talk. So if I can be behind the scenes helping people transform the diet, or helping people transform their body, helping people transform their business, now it removes me from having to be on social media. And I think that's what everyone does wrong in business and in body, is they spend too much time theorizing and thinking and plotting and fucking get out there and work harder than everybody else. Step one, right? Especially when it comes to your bodies, get in the gym. And dude, I train with guys now that are a fraction of my size. But if I see them and I see them working really hard, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm the first guy that walks up to them and goes, hey man, what's your name? You're doing fucking awesome. And I want to encourage that type of tenacity in people. And whether it be in business or anything, like, good for you, man. Like, I see you doing all the shit no one else is willing to do. Because to do that takes courage, right? Not from me, but from them, to work that hard on anything. So I think that's what's missing in business. Because of Instagram, everybody wants instant gratification. We all want that dopamine hit right now. People don't want to put in the time to change somebody's body. Oh, that takes 6 months. I don't want to wait that long. Yeah, okay, hey, I want to build 30 pounds of muscle. That's going to take me a year. I don't want to wait that long. Well, fucking too bad, right? If you actually want to build something of significance, that's what it takes. It's not this like, hey, I'm going to go post a PB of me being on Instagram doing a fucking squat or something, or an ab pose, and now everyone's going to give me this external gratification. I never give a shit about external gratification, man. Like, I'd be the guy with the hoodie, the baggy pants, in the gym, fucking headphones on. I don't give a shit what anybody has to say to me. I'm not seeking your compliments. I'm seeking the end result. Like, I'm seeking to be the greatest I can be at the end. That's what people are missing. Everybody wants instant gratification. Nobody can prolong the victory.
And that ultimately, I think Milos actually said the other day, if you want respect off other people in a gym, just train freaking hard. And you'll
People will
learn
come
that.
up to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny, you know, I mean, I've actually moved up to North London. There's a bodybuilding gym here. And within a couple of weeks, 3 weeks of being there, I'm actually ending up speaking to people.
You already know who your partners are.
And you can start to see and ask people for a spot, and then they can see what you're doing. And it's quite funny because all this journey that I've been on has kind of set me up to a point whereby, like you said, you've got to build a brand and to build a business. There has to be that groundwork. And my wife's or my mother-in-law said, you spend the first half of your life building a name for yourself, and the second half of your life making your name work for you. And I loved it when she said that, is because what you've just said is people aren't prepared to build the name for themselves, build the reputation, put the groundwork in, because this, can I get the most likes on a post? Can I get the most saves by being attention grabbing, as opposed to just letting what you do speak volume?
Yeah. And I think unconsciously, at an unconscious level, we're animals. And when we walk into a room, let's say we walk into a room with 30 other people, our unconscious mind scans the room, and we already know who the people that are going to be like us are and people who are not going to be like us are, just based on our physical appearance and our mannerisms, right? So if we're going into a gym, you walk into that gym that you just started training at, you know right away who the alpha males are, who the good training partners are going to be within seconds of being there, right? So that unconscious reality has to become conscious for people and go, hey, this is the person I want to become. So how do I pursue that? So when I walk into a gym, you know, if you wanted to come train with me or I wanted to come train with you, well, I need to go, well, what does Mark do in the gym? And how does he do that? And how do I keep up with that? And how do I be the best I can be to show Mark that I can hang? You know, it always has to be that reality of like, you know, you're living this life, and then those things will become part of your reality.
So would you then therefore say, select the room you want to be in?
1,000%. I already created, I think we talked about this,
yes,
man. My life, my end result is like, I have a table and I'm like, here's all the people at my table. You know, when the day that I die, I want to have this table and all these people at the table. But the trick with the table, and I think I told you this, is it's not just me sitting at the table. It's every one of them inviting me to their table, saying, you have something of value to bring to my life. You have something of value to bring to me. So please come and have dinner with me. Let me cook for you. Let me prepare for you, and let's break bread and let's talk and let's exchange mutually beneficial conversation. But yeah, dude, it's got to be bringing something to that table.
And I think right now, based on that, like coaches listening to this episode will be thinking, like, if I had a choice of who I want around that table, or the room that I actually want to be in and spend more time in, I do remember this. You were speaking at the ISSN conference with Jacob Wilson and Brad Schoenfeld, and on the way there, I reached out to Luke Lehman and said, how do I get to meet Ben? And I remember sat in the audience and I was like, hey, I've got a question. Hey, I've got a question. And I was just like, you know, to me, no, this is true, mate. How do I get in Ben's world? Like, Ben's in a room, I can't get in it, but I also know that when we went for a coffee and we had breakfast the day after I spoke, we'd never met, and I asked you like 20 questions, I just knew that I had to get there. But like you said,
I forgot about that.
Yes, we did. And we had breakfast, and I asked you a lot of questions, and you said to me, this was how valuable being in your room was. I said, what do I need to do? You said to me, one, the first tip is when you train like you pose, so you get the full contraction. 2, you said go and do RTS. And 3, you told me to listen to the whole of a marketing podcast, and there was like 120 episodes.
Yeah, I love marketing.
Right, I love marketing, and I listened to them all for the next 2 months. Now, the funny thing is, if I hadn't have pushed myself and my business and my reputation and my results to get in that room, I wouldn't have been introduced to digital marketing. I wouldn't have actually, you know, been able to have had the foresight to do RTS. And that's why I think this pursuit of excellence, challenging the room that you're in, you know, figuratively speaking, and say, what have the attributes of these people got that are in this other room, and how am I going to start working towards those? Would you agree?
You know what I remember from that conversation when we had breakfast is I remember you telling me that I wasn't as big in person as you thought I was going to
be. No, and I think ever since I said to people, he walked over to the table and his legs were bigger than I actually thought.
I'm just teasing. Yeah. I mean, dude, you know, you and I are in agreement, and everything is determine the table you want to be at, determine what you bring to the table, because certainly you had to prepare yourself to have a certain objective. And then you and I just, you know, had parallel beliefs and parallel objectives. I think parallel values in life. And when you do that, everything lines up, man. That's why we've managed to keep a great friendship for coming up on 6 years.
And you're kind of to kind of pull this together. There's so many trainers in this industry, and my passion, Bud, is to help personal trainers navigate through this jungle. I mean, the career is a crazy thing. Your mind's played games with you all the way through it. My mind's played games with me all the way through it. In the pursuit of excellence and just improving yourself, becoming better at the stage of kind of like 3, 5, 6 years into your career, what are the kind of fundamental things that you think a coach should do right now that would help them go from A to B to C? You know, we talked about training potentially as one of them. What would you say are some fundamental things that coaches should do, respective of their business, their body, and their brain, that would give them that added advantage right now?
Well, I think I told you I created a course, and this is not a plug for the course, but the reason I created this course is I wanted to give coaches and average people a framework. So one thing I never had when I was coming up through bodybuilding or as a young personal trainer is a framework to even start to, there's so much information out there. So I wanted to create a framework so we could kind of start to understand the foundations of everything that goes into changing a body. Right. So I created my 6 pillars of a lean, healthy, and muscular physique. And it's really simple, man. There's only a few things that when done, can impact the body, right? So what things can impact the body? Well, how we move, how we think, how we breathe, how we eat, and how we sleep. And then the environment in which we do all those 6 things. That's it. So those are my 6 pillars. The evolution of those is my 6 pillars. And I can share those anytime. But so now that gives me a framework of looking at which of these 6 things am I good at? Which of these things am I focusing on? And which ones am I not focusing on? So if you're not focusing on breathing and sleeping and thinking, well, you need to think about those. You need to make sure those are paid attention to in equal balance. So when it comes to building your body, let's focus on all of those 6 pillars. When it comes to business, well, coming back to these things, it comes back to like, make sure you are practicing what you preach. Like if you're not someone who's doing the transformation, who's working hard, who's building muscle, who's able to get in shape, or even if you're not teaching somebody to get in shape, maybe you're teaching them to move more effectively, to improve the mobility, or to decrease pain. But you have to have gone through that, right? So you have to be able to live it and understand what it means before you can teach it and apply it. So those are, with respect to the body, those are some of my foundations. And I can certainly talk, some of the business foundations, if that's what you are referring to, or just personal development stuff.
Well, just on the training aspect, and we'll just look at some of the personal development areas. What level? I mean, I did take myself to a level with competing. You took yourself to a level, incredible level with your bodybuilding. What level do you think fitness professionals should take themselves to?
Well, about 5 steps above the people they want to coach, right? So identify who you want to coach, and you got to surpass them. So, I know I want to coach the best athletes in the world. So that was the only option for me. I want to be forever known as the guy who's the best in the world at changing people's body from a muscle building perspective. And, I still think I'm capable of doing that better than most, if not everyone on the planet. And is there people out there who've got better theoretical knowledge than me? Absolutely. But the balance of theory and practice is, I would argue, there's no one that can surpass what I've done. So that was my objective, man. It's like, I want to be the guy training the next Mr. Olympias. I wanted to be the guy training the next Mr. Olympias, the next physique competitors, ultimately become the next Joe Weider was one of my objectives. Whether or not I still want to do that, remains to be seen. I think bodybuilding is a very unique sport that, I love it, man. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It's just sometimes having to deal with some of the personalities, and I would have been one of these saying this about myself, but sometimes the personalities is a pain in the ass. But so, I mean, I guess just to simplify the answer to the question is you have to do more and better than the demographic you choose to pursue. And I think that's logical, right?
So we've got putting yourself in a room with the type of people that you aspire to not be, but you aspire to be around. Sure. And then in terms of training, we want to put ourselves 3-4 levels above the people that we want to coach and get results with. Mm-hmm. From a business perspective, there are coaches that, let's say, maybe want to earn a little bit more or want to have a better brand or a better reputation. What would be your kind of couple of main things that you would say from a business perspective that would give people more of a state of excellence in terms of their business acumen?
realize that you're your own business card. So many people are focused on brand building, man. And I think brand building is very useful, but what most people miss is the foundation of a brand is the person behind it.
Of course.
And there's so much happening at an unconscious level when you and I interact, or when you interact with anybody, that the way I look is so impressioning on your mind. It's such an impressionable state in your mind. So really paying attention to the reality that you're your own business card. And that's not just how you look from a physique perspective, but it's, are you clean? How do you talk? Clean shaven and well groomed. Is your shirt tucked in? Do you look like a slob? Stuff like that, man. Like paying attention to all that stuff. And I try to make sure my team is very aware of that. You do an amazing job with that at M10. And to be honest, we model you guys a lot. It's just like paying attention to whether or not the client consciously judges you or not. And you could have the best, like I'm a pretty non-judgmental person in general, but no matter whether I'm consciously doing it or not, unconsciously, as we just talked about, there is this animalistic judgment that happens. You're walking up to the proverbial watering hole, right? We're all going up to take a drink, and you're kind of looking around and going, okay, who's on my side, who's not on my side? That happens just on an unconscious level for millions of years of human evolution. So acknowledging that it's important to dress in a way and carry yourself in a way and speak in a way that is representative of who you're trying to become and who you're trying to surround yourself with.
I love that because, the whole brand perception, that 20 minutes, 1 hour, that 1 hour training session, you are leaving an impression on somebody that when they have a coffee in an hour's time with some friends, they're either going to feel the need to talk about how great their experience was with you, or they're going to possibly talk about it, but not in the right way. And even from, like you said, how you speak to people, how you carry yourself, how you dress, it's so important because we think, right, my brand is getting people lean and doing body transformations. But if you're not a reflection of the brand that you want, then it's negatively impacting people's perception.
And I love that you brought up the actual session itself. And this is something I borrowed from Tony Robbins is, people don't come to the gym to have a personal training session, right? They want to have a remarkable experience. I want them to have a remarkable experience. When you go to a Tony Robbins event, you don't go, I went to a seminar this weekend. You go, I fucking walked on fire, right? So he creates an experience that is memorable and remarkable. And I think that's what everyone should do within a personal training session, within a business, right? Is don't just aim to just do enough. Aim to like make it so exceedingly exceptional that people go, oh my goodness, have you seen this? Like, this is exceptional. I struggle with that, man. I think this is the perfectionist attitude. And sometimes I'm just like, okay, push it out. But it's a challenge to balance, when to push things out and when to strive for perfection. But ultimately carry that level of high expectation in everything you do.
I think what you've just said really is important. I was at the team meeting with the guys, and we review our personal standards and expectations right down to the point of, we do a review with all our members. And yesterday we went through 10 members that we called, and every single one of them said one of the most valuable things is when they come in the gym, every trainer says hello. And it's very important because the gym's intimidating, and sometimes we forget that the minimum level standards that the guys do on a day-to-day basis. And a trainer, when they're busy, can often just let their client come in, crack on during a training session. And that puts an impression in their mind straight away. As you said, they're here for an experience. If you want to keep them, it's an experience that keeps them rather than the education that you've got.
Totally. Nobody's going to talk about the personal training session. Nobody gives a shit about the personal training session. We give a shit about the personal training session. Nobody gives a shit about the anatomy or the biomechanics or the things that you learned at, the education session. Nobody cares. All they want is to feel good and they want to get a result. That's what it comes down to, right? Like, I come to the gym because I want to feel better. I want what this does for me. Like, the theory behind it is, you and I want the theory, but average personal clients don't care. And you have so many trainers talking about the mechanics and the anatomy and trying to educate people. Man, nobody gives a shit. Just make them feel good, anchor a positive mindset, and send them on their way with a great result, and you win.
I love that. My last question for you, and this I want to leave guys with. How does Ben Pakulski keep his excellence mindset? What does life look like now? Maybe on a day-to-day basis, what do you do that really helps you maintain this excellent state of mind?
Man, there's a few things that really resonate with me and how I try to maintain excellence. One, I realize that this minute amount of quote unquote fame or notoriety that I have, every single person that meets me, it could be the first and last time they ever meet me. So I make sure that I show up and I give them my time and attention. And that's important to me because it's important to me that, if I'm inspiring someone from afar and I meet them, that I make it a memorable experience. Even if it's 30 seconds of my time, I make sure that I always show up and I give them everything of me because first and foremost, I care, right? And the reason I do what I do is because I care about people. I want to help people. And if I can let them know that I care, I can go to bed at night going, man, I really helped that person. I really helped that person. I really helped that person from an altruistic place. And I don't care if I ever get a response back or if they ever say, hey, man, you were really kind to me. That's not the point. I want to make that person's day better, regardless of what my state is. So I make sure that in every situation in life, I don't carry my negative emotions whenever possible into any scenario, including work, including social encounters, including really, especially my home, like try not to bring anything negative into my children. That's very, very important. That's one way I maintain excellence. The other way, and you'll know this, man, is I've become ruthless with who I surround myself with. I would much rather be alone than with people that in any way bring me down. So I love spending time by myself. I love reading. I love learning. I love educating myself. And I'm very selective with my time. So if I'm going to spend an hour of time talking to Mark Coles on the phone, better damn believe Mark Coles is an amazing human being. I know he's an amazing human being. He knows he's an amazing human being. We have a great exchange. But I'm not going to spend time talking to someone who isn't in any way helping me maintain my standard of excellence. If in any way it's negative, or it's talking about other people, or it's talking about things, accumulation of material things that I'm not interested in, I'm out, man. Like I have no time or interest. I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, I got to go. See, that's why you and I have a great relationship, great ability to talk on a consistent basis, because hopefully I think we bring a mutual amount to the table and it's a mutually beneficial experience. And we're both striving for personal excellence in everything we do. And that's huge to me, man. I'm ruthless now with people that I allow into my life and to steal my time, because for a long time I tended to be a little more giving with my time. And I just don't ever want to do that. I think time is just too valuable. I'd either rather be alone or with my children than spending time with anyone who has anything negative to contribute.
I think a lot of people would look at that and go, oh, hold on a minute. What about the reality of life and spending, the reality of life is what you choose it to be. Yeah. And the reality of life is you don't have to be in environments where you're with the wrong types of people, and people that are talking negative, because as you said earlier on, you're putting this internal energy into your mind that's blocking your opportunity to think clearly, and you're just filling it with unnecessaries, like you do the radio or like you do with all the stuff that's coming in. You've got to be very selective with what you allow in.
Yeah, there's a few final points there, right? It's every single thing you do, including moving, thinking, breathing, every second of the day is an opportunity to learn a new habit or reinforce an old one. So the things that are going into your mind, whether you're conscious of them or not, are forming your brain. So it's so important, man. Again, just acknowledging that walking into a room with somebody isn't a problem. Like I don't mind going into a room and talking to people that are negative, but I'll tell you one thing I won't do is contribute. Right. So I'm not saying that I just completely shut out everyone who has a negative comment and a negative outlook on life. Ideally, I wish I could, but I can't. But what I do is I just don't talk. I just don't contribute. I don't.
You don't feed it.
I don't feed it. Yeah. So like, okay, yeah, it's good you feel that way, or I'm sorry you feel that way, or anything like that. I kind of have one or two default phrases that I go to. I'm like, oh, is that how you feel? Or I say your belief is that. Like I'll always try to make them hopefully become aware. But usually just don't feed it, man. And if you could do that, choosing who you talk to is a game changer.
And do you know the whole purpose of this, the Mastery podcast for me is, as I said a few minutes ago, is helping coaches navigate through their careers. And for somebody that's been there and done it better than most ever will, to have you on the podcast and share your experience, your pursuit of excellence, I know will give the coaches that are trying to navigate through their careers the opportunity from listening to you to say, I can take some of these habits, I can create new environments for me to be, I can level up for myself, I can be better, I can be more, and I can expect more of myself, or put new habits in place that's going to allow you to go to the next level. And the fact that we've had you on, and you've given us this, given coaches the opportunity to listen to how your mind operates. Yeah, I'm truly grateful for your time today. I really am.
Thanks,
and I know everybody else is going to be incredibly grateful. Now, the other thing is you're an incredibly smart person, hugely respected worldwide. And it's important that, the fitness industry doesn't often like to share what other information, courses and stuff that are around. I've done nearly everybody's stuff, right? And I would encourage every trainer, whether you come and do my stuff, my business stuff, my practical stuff, whatever we do, I'd encourage you to get on a plane and go to whatever country you're in. But I truly do believe that if you've not been trained by you, they need to come and be trained by you, because you've had a huge impact in my life.
Thanks, brother.
So how do coaches find out about you? And I will say this, guys, listening to the episode today, I remember, and I tell this story a lot, Ben, and I hope you don't mind me sharing it. It's not a personal one.
Never.
I was at my gym at M10 when we first opened, and I can't remember the year that you spoke at the ISSN conference.
2012, probably.
Right, with Jacob, right?
12 or 13.
I think it was 13.
Yeah.
So I was at my gym, and I'd never met you. And on the Wednesday, before you spoke on the Friday or the Saturday, I think, on the Wednesday, I got a Facebook message, and it said, last chance to get a ticket. And I did what I called my fuck it moment. And I booked a plane ticket, which was extortionate. My round trip was $3.5K.
Wow.
And to come and meet you.
Yeah.
And
I had no idea, man.
You have no idea. I basically left on Thursday morning. And after you and I had coffee the morning after I flew back, which was Monday morning, after we had lunch. So I basically flew out Thursday, came back Monday morning to be back in for my clients. And it was over $3,000.
Wow. I had no idea, man.
But the point about this is most trainers are quite happy to do an online course. They want to go to if they're in Nottingham, they want to go to a Nottingham course. If they're in London, they want to go to a London course. I got on a plane. Well, the same thing when Charles was speaking, and Charles Poliquin was a huge mentor to you and myself. But I was at Scottsdale. I was at Rhode Island, wherever the plane was, wherever he was, I went. Guys, if Ben, you're going to be speaking and presenting, I know you're going to be coming over to the UK, but you got to travel. You got to meet people. When are you next available, and how do people find out about what your schedule is?
So everything's going to be posted up on musclecamps.com. You can find them all through muscleintelligence.com as well. So Muscle Camps is usually where I host all of the courses. Some of them are kind of hidden URLs you can always find depending on where it is, but most of the ones that are available to the public will be right on musclecamps.com. So we're looking at Dubai, which is the end of January into February. Australia is in February. New Zealand's in February. March, I think I'm home with my family. April, I'm in UK twice. I'm coming out to see you. We're, I think, in San Diego, but that's just you and I. And then some Canada camps as well. And I think that's what's available right now. We've got some planned for May and June as well. But what's on this site right now, you'll find Dubai, Australia, New Zealand, UK only. Again, there's a couple other things in the mix.
And guys, if you are not available for the time when Ben's in the UK and he's in Dubai, get on a plane, because you become more worldly when you travel.
It's fun coaches. Too. It's the best experiences. And I'm also going to be adding a couple into Tampa. People haven't really been bugging me. I wasn't going to do any in Tampa 2020. People have been bugging me to do a level 1 and 2 back-to-back. So you'd have 6 days of coaching in a row. It's a long one. It's a lot for me to teach, but I'll probably knock out one in March and maybe one in September or something for 2020.
And I mean, obviously, I know you've got a very small gym, so the atmosphere there is not really the best, is it? So
it's like a garage. We roll the garage door up and we cram everybody in the summertime.
Yeah, and guys, I will tell you that there is not a gym in the world that you would find the equipment that Ben has and the experience you'd get from being in that environment. So you've helped me immensely, and the opportunity for people to get coached by you would be a game changer.
Thanks, brother. And one thing I'll add to that is, like, people always go, well, who's it for, right? And if you're an absolute beginner, it's going to be beneficial for you. If you're a high level athlete, it's going to be beneficial for you, because our true skill, our gift, or what we can bring to people is the ability to meet you where you are and progress you from where you are to where you want to be, because it's not just for high-level athletes, right? Because ultimately, sometimes I just like to say that people who have the least bad habits are my favorite clients, because it's less time to teach them the new stuff. It's really for everybody. And I love meeting people, especially people who are as passionate about achieving their goals as I am.
and giving them the opportunity to kind of begin their journey or even get better from where they are now.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Bud, listen, thank you. You're over in Tampa. I'm here. I've got this really artificial light pouring down on me, and you've got the beautiful sun in the background. There you go. Ouch, ouch. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you will have seen that. If not, I just want to say thank you for sharing your excellence, your experience, your mind with everybody. And I just hope everybody's found it a hugely valuable episode. Thanks, Bud.
Thanks, Bud. I appreciate you, man.